Hello everybody, and today I just want to talk about, is it cheap to pick a top tier character, and should you do it? Now, first I want to name who the top tier characters are, if anyone doesn't know, from all the Smash games. Now, I don't know that much about other fighting games. Now, in terms of Smash 64, the top tier characters that I know, it's pretty limited to pretty much Pikachu. I'm not super aware about Smash 64, but from what I know, Pikachu pretty much dominates that entire game. In Melee, you have about 10 or so characters that are tournament viable. Maybe around the bottom end of that, it stops getting top tier and more like mid tier or high tier. But they're still tournament viable. So you got like Fox, Sheik, Falco, Marth, Jigglypuff, Peach, Captain Falcon, Samus, Ice Climbers, you know, those kind of characters. Then in Smash 4 we have almost 51 characters, and so but still having about 10 top tier characters, and then maybe about 10 more tournament viable ones. And the top tiers have been historically Sheik, Rosalina, Pikachu, Ness, Luigi, Zero Suit Samus, and Diddy before pre-patch. Now there's other characters that are tournament viable, but those are about the top tiers that we know today. And I didn't include the recent characters such as Roy or Ryu. I don't believe Lucas to be quite top tier, but I think that Roy and Ryu could be top tier, but we don't know enough about them currently in the meta to determine if they are top tier. But those are the top tier characters. That's how it lies until Daddy Sakurai decides to give us a buff. Now, what's good about picking a top tier? Let's just start off with that. Let's start off positive. Now, top tiers maximize your potential. You have a much better chance of doing very well with a top tier character because they don't have any bad limitations. You know, they don't have that many. They have a great kit, and you can just express yourself through combat as best as possible with these characters. And that allows for higher levels of play because you're not limited to having to train past the weaknesses of your character. You can focus exclusively on mind games and exclusively on beating your opponent. And this just makes it fun because you don't really get frustrated from the character. You know if you fail that it's your fault. And some people that's frustrating, but they're just salty nerds and they need to get by it. But it's fun because you can just play the character and you won't fail because of the character, you'll fail because of yourself. And that's just part of the learning process, and that's also fun. Now, what's bad? Now, a lot of people feel that top tiers are cheap and that they can be broken. In the case of Meta Knight, in Brawl, I would say he was along the broken side. He's probably the most broken character we've ever had in the Smash game. But he was still fightable. You could still beat a Meta Knight. But, you know, he felt kind of broken, and it felt like when people played Brawl competitively, all you would see is Meta Knight dittos. And that it just streamlined the game. In the beginning of Smash 4, you kind of felt that way. You kind of felt like, man, all I'm seeing is Diddy. You know, Diddy dittos. And then in Melee, this isn't really that popular in Melee. This doesn't really happen in Melee. It doesn't really happen in Smash 4 after the Diddy patch. But you do see a lot of Fox dittos, you know, and you do see a lot of people playing Falco and Sheik. So it feels like the issue with top tier characters is that they centralize the meta and they don't allow for enough diversity in tournament. And what makes tournaments interesting is seeing the combination of a player's unique fighting patterns with a character's unique fighting style. And that, combined with fighting another person, is what makes the unique situations that bring people to tournaments. But when you centralize that, it makes it more samey, and it makes it a lot less interesting to watch. That's why Brawl is really kind of dead, and Melee is still alive, because Melee has a very diverse cast that you can choose a character that you want to use, and you can be tournament viable with them. And finally, a lot of people feel like top tier characters are just way too easy, like that you don't need to be good to play one. Like a controversy it's a pretty small controversy, but I've been seeing some things about it. Smash at Xanadu, it's one of the most popular like Smash weeklies, and Poyo, he's never really done too great at them. He usually mains Kirby, and recently he switched his main to Luigi, and not technically, he hasn't said if that's his main, but he mained Luigi pretty much the tournament, and he won. And that was a huge upset. People were very surprised, and some people started pointing fingers and saying he only won because he played Luigi. Now, I don't know Puyo personally, and I can't really determine if he didn't have any skill before this, or if he was training a lot. I heard that he didn't train. He trained a lot before a couple weeks when the tournament happened, but he didn't train like the week before. So I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that he didn't win just because he played Luigi. There are other people playing other great characters, such as Sheik and Ness and Sonic. So, you know, he had big competitors in the top tiers. And, you know, it's not that Kirby's a bad character, but it's a lot harder to win with Kirby. And maybe Luigi, he had so much fun playing him that he actually started training, and I'm assuming that's what happened. He found Luigi, he was inspired, he knew, like, now he had no limitations. The only limitation he had was himself, and so he probably just he went all in, and he started training, he put in that work, and then he won, and good job to him. And, you know, to all those salty nerds, you can shut up, please. It's very annoying. I don't want my Twitter being blown up by people salty that Puyo won, please. And that kind of brings us down to the whole topic of this video. Should you feel guilty for picking a top tier? And as I've stated before, no, you shouldn't. It maximizes your potential, and everybody has the same cast of characters when they open up Smash Bros. I mean, except for that BS where you gotta, like, play matches to find characters. That's like a day. That you can do that in a day, whatever. Like, but everyone has the same cast of characters pretty much. And so, if you want to play Sheik or one of the top tiers, you can. And there's no character in the cast that is brain dead or doesn't take any skill to play. Every character in the game takes skill to play. The only character that's even close to brain dead is Mario, and you're not going to be beating somebody who's better than you just because you play Mario. Maybe if you're very close in skill, and they're slightly better, but, like, still, like, it doesn't really matter. And that's pretty much the whole ordeal right there. Is go ahead, you know, do it. Now, to all those people being salty, I just need to say, you need to stop being salty, okay? Acknowledge that if somebody picks a top tier character, that's what you should be doing. Now, there's nothing wrong with not picking a top tier character. Just be prepared for the salt that ensues, and be prepared for, you're playing the game on hard mode, bro. You picked Marth on that character select. You know what you're doing. So just be prepared. You're gonna lose some matches, and it might not be completely because of your player ability. It might be partially because the limitations of the character that you selected. But you did select that character, so you still need to take responsibility for your loss, okay? So don't get salty. And I guess what we should discuss, why does this happen? Because in Melee, you didn't really see people, like, if you pick Peach, you're not going to see a lot of people getting angry. If you pick Marth, he's like the 4th best character in the game. People kind of treat it like, oh wow, this person is you know, playing a character that isn't seen very often, you know. And if you pick, like, and he's 4th. Now, if you pick 4th in Smash 4, which, I mean, I guess that could be considered either Pikachu or some people say Roy, but whatever. If you pick 4th, people aren't really going to be that surprised. They might even feel cheapness from you. Now, why is that? Because, you know, you only really see an outcry for characters like Fox and Falco in Melee, and you don't really see an outcry for any other characters, and why is that? Well, I believe it's because Melee has a much smaller character select, so if, like, 12 of the characters in Melee are tournament viable, there aren't really that many more characters in the cast, so you feel like you can really pick anyone and be successful with them, and so about the top few percent, you feel is kind of cheap. Well, some salty nerds feel is kind of cheap. In Smash 4, you have 51 characters. And so, the reason why those same salty nerds hate it when you pick pretty much anybody in the top 10 is because it's the same percent as in Melee, it's just there's so many more characters. Now, how can we fix this? How can we fix the salt of permeating from these nerds' faces? How can we do this? Now, what we need to do, what Sakurai can help us do, is we need characters that are worse to get buffed, so there's a higher percentage of tournament viable characters in Smash. Now, I personally believe if Sakurai were to never buff the game again, it would still be a great and competitive game. But I would be super happy if they buffed Marth to being tournament viable, buffing Robin. They've been buffing Robin recently. I think Robin's probably one of the best buff characters. Link got one of the best buffs. I mean, I don't mean biggest buffs, as we've talked about in the Wii Fit Trainer video. Getting a big buff isn't necessarily going to make your character great. It's getting the right buffs, and Link's grab and some of Robin's grabs really help them as a character, because their design was already pretty solid to begin with. But that's an entirely different video, of course. But what we need is more tournament viable characters to dispel the salt from these nerds. So, Daddy Sakurai, if you're listening, dispel that salt, please, and buff Marth. Like, for real, I want to play Marth in Smash 4. It's really sad. But, that's just my opinion, and if you disagree, or if you just have something that you want to say to me, you can leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and, of course, thanks for watching, and goodbye.